So with the release of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, I think it's time we start getting honest about Voldemort. The truth is, he is not as cool of a villain as this guy, or as good of a villain as this guy. And if we started making a list of great villains of cinema of all time, Voldemort does not belong on the list. So let's talk about it. Before we get started trashing Voldemort, if you want a more positive Harry Potter discussion, click at the link above. You will see my ranking with Tyler Tompkins of the Harry Potter movies, much more positive. This one's a lot more fun. See, when it comes to Harry Potter, there was so much great world building done, where they created this incredible school with Hogwarts, all these rules with magic, these wonderful characters, and Harry, Hermione, Ron, Dumbledore, Snape. And then we get the main villain. And he's not very compelling. When you compare it to everything going on around him, when you start talking about actual dramatic tension, Voldemort just is not as good as the world around him. Harry Potter deserved a better main villain. I'm going to give you 5 reasons why. Let's get started. Reason number 1 that Voldemort sucks, he isn't around. So I'm not a big fan of Harry Potter myself. I did not read the books, and so I was just watching the movies like anybody else, just kind of clean slate. And as I'm watching them, like they keep telling me how bad Voldemort is, and he never shows up. Like they keep talking about, oh, he showed up and he used his wand and you got a lightning bolt on your face. They're telling me that. And so stuff that happened in the past about how terrible he was. And then the kids go to school and they learn magic. And, there's a stone. And then he's on the back of some guy's head, which is not scary. Then we get the second movie and then we learn about him as a kid. He doesn't show up. Third movie, he doesn't show up. He does not show up in this series until the end of the 4th movie, or I guess the 4th book as well, and he only shows up at the end. And then he's not really in the 5th one, and then he kind of shows up in the 6th one, but it's not really until the 7th film that he actually shows up to do stuff. And so they keep telling us about how bad he is, but he's never around. So if you're trying to have an adventure, and you're talking about the big main villain, but he's not actually the main villain. The main villain of Sorcerer's Stone, not Voldemort. He's backstory. Main villain of Chamber of Secrets. Not really Voldemort. There's all sorts of stuff going on driving the events, and we learn about Voldemort, but he's not the main villain of the story driving things. Prisoner of Azkaban. Not Voldemort. What's the next one? Goblet of Fire? He can show, I guess he's kind of a villain, but the main events of it aren't about, let's stop Voldemort. No. So we're halfway through this deal, and he hasn't been the main bad guy yet. We get to the 5th one, and so there's a bunch of tension. Has he returned? But it's not a battle to stop him, really. And we get to the end of the 5th one before we're starting having real battles and stuff. This is a problem when you say he's supposed to be one of the great villains of all time, and he's nowhere to be seen. So let's compare him to some other guys. This guy, right there, he shows up in the intro scene of A New Hope and kills people. He watches his people are killed. He tries to, he tortures Princess Leia within the first 30 minutes of the movie. He kills off with a lightsaber, Obi-Wan Kenobi. He just kind of strikes him down, gets in a spaceship and tries to kill a farm boy flying around the Death Star. And he watches as a planet is blown up. It's like, whatever. Second movie, once again, we're following him around as he kills people, choking people out. That's a good villain, doing stuff around evil. Now, maybe you would say, well, maybe Voldemort's not the Darth Vader of this series. He's more the Palpatine. He's the Emperor. Yeah, but that doesn't work here because Palpatine had his enforcer, Vader, and then he was slowly built up to be the main bad guy. But even there, he shows up much sooner than Voldemort, who just takes forever to kind of show up. So problem number 1, he doesn't show up. Problem number 2, they tell us instead of show us that he's evil. This ties closely with the previous one, so I'm not going to talk as long about it, but you can't just spend all of your time telling me, oh, he's so bad, he's such a bad guy, oh, he did this stuff before, oh, you got a mark on your face. Movies are a visual format. You're supposed to see things, not just hear about them through expository dialogue. You want to see the action, see the awful things. But even in a book, even in a story, there's the passive action and the backstory of like, ooh, he's so bad. And then there's the present urgency of dramatic tension that we presently are feeling. Hearing about that someone was killed that we already knew was killed does not give urgency or dramatic tension because it happened in the past, as opposed to Voldemort's out there right now. He is at Hogwarts and he's walking around. He's just lopping heads off. Hermione's dead. You know, if that's what happened in the first one and we loved Hermione and then she is killed, or we just kill Ron in the second one, the whole rest of them, we're freaking out every time Voldemort shows up because he's the scary guy that kills kids. No, as it is, it's like, we got to remember he's evil. He's got a scar over your eye. He's a bad guy. He did that to you. No. You don't tell us. You have to show us. And he doesn't really do anything evil until the end of the fourth one where he kills Edward Cullen from Twilight. That's the big evil thing. We'll get back to that in just a minute. But the big evil thing that he does through this, where we're supposed to freak out, is that he kills the lead character from Twilight. No, you gotta show us him doing actual bad things. No, just tell us he does bad things. Number 3, he doesn't do anything that bad. Once again, building off what I just said, they kept telling us about these things he did in the past that was really, really bad. But in the movies, as you're going through them, or in the books as you're going through them, what's the thing that Voldemort does in Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone that's so bad? Nothing. Chamber of Secrets, nothing. I mean, you just kind of go through the movies. He doesn't do anything so terrible and bad that would make you despise him until we're well past halfway into this deal. And they just keep going, oh, he's so bad. Oh, Voldemort, we can't even say his name. But he doesn't do anything to earn that. They're just telling us. And he's not doing these big things that have big consequences for the world that we're in. We're just kind of going through these stories and kind of tracking along for a long time. And he's fairly inconsequential to the story of each of these movies for a very simple reason. If he's walking around and just lopping the heads off, like I said, the teachers would get involved. Like, Dumbledore wouldn't be like, oh, Harry, let me teach you about... Like, they would be out on the mission trying to stop Voldemort. The Snape would stop doing this kind of behind the scenes, let me nick it in, unsure what I'm trying to do. Oh, if Voldemort's going through the halls killing people, Snape's going to be like, all right, just kidding. I'm clearly on this side. I don't want Voldemort killing my students. I'm going to stop you. Like, but they don't do that because if Voldemort was doing something that bad... the adults would have to get involved. They're not involved, so there's just kind of like, oh, there's mysteries, and we're on a scavenger hunt, and there's a little time travel shenanigans going on, but there's not like this urgency to stop Voldemort. That means the kids can get involved in the adventure. But that also means Voldemort, not such a great villain that's super intimidating and scary on the level of, once again, this guy right here that actually kills people a lot. Problem number 4, they removed the mystery. I call this the prequels problem. So Darth Vader is so terrifying because he's this guy in this evil mask that's just chopping people down and force choking and blowing up planets and not, I would say he's smiling, but I don't know if he's smiling behind the mask. But so he's so intimidating. And then we do Phantom Menace and it's like he's a little kid and he's like, she's not a slave, she's a person. I'm going to be the best ever. I'm a pod racer. And you see all of that and immediately you go, ooh, not all information is good information. And then we get to Attack of the Clones and he's like, sand sucks. It's so coarse in your hands. And I killed all the sand people because I hated them. And you see that and you go, ooh, not good. Now, they don't quite do the young Anakin Skywalker to Voldemort, but they give us all of these flashbacks of him as a student and stories about him as a student, and they start taking away way too much of the mystery and way too much of the intimidation. Like, I don't want to see my big scary bad guy as an awkward high schooler. That doesn't add to the, ooh, he's so bad. It doesn't help me track along with this any better. It instead makes me go, this is I don't need this. Part of the problem here is the first one that I saw was Chamber of Secrets. That was my introduction. And they kept talking about, this guy, this former student Tom, and they're like, oh, you're Voldemort. And I was, like, what? That guy, like, that's the main bad guy that's supposed to be the new Darth Vader? Like, no, he's not. This is not working for me. And so they just took away too much of the mystery. Instead of him being this mysterious figure that shows up and kills kids who are afraid of him, and we're seeing him all the time, and he's on all these plots that we're trying to stop throughout all the stories. No, we don't do any of that. We're talking about him as an awkward high schooler, which I don't care about at all. And number 5, he created Edward Cullen. Now, I haven't added these made-up facts to the Wikipedia page, but if you go to the Wikipedia page and you look up Edward Cullen from Twilight, what you will discover, based off my additions, is that basically it's the same character. Twilight is a spin-off of Harry Potter. And what happened is after he was killed by Voldemort, or Voldemort tells the guy to kill him, so he gets killed. He didn't die, actually, and so he decides what he's going to do is start a new identity, and so he starts lying to high schoolers. I'm 100 years old, that's how I have magic powers, but he's making it all up just because he's a sleazy sleazeball with a new identity, running away from the European wizard wars going on, moves to Seattle, Washington, or wherever Twilight takes place, I don't really care, and then we get the Twilight movies. Thanks, Voldemort. I guess maybe you are the worst villain of all time if this is what you're giving us. This is outrageous. So you tell me, what did you think about Voldemort? Why am I wrong? What am I missing here? How is he on the same level as Darth Vader and all these other great villains that we've had that are actually present, actually doing bad things, actually creating stakes and not creating Edward Cullen? But like, what does he do? How is he worthy of being one of the greats of all time? Because I think he's kind of like the gigantic black eye, the weak spot for Harry Potter, ruining the whole deal. Tell me in the comment section. I want to talk about it. You're not going to convince me, but I sure will love to argue back and forth with you. All right, just kidding, guys. Voldemort is the worst, but he's also real, and he's come back to the earth, and he's looking to take everything over, and there's only one way to stop him, and I'm not making this up, but you've got to click that subscribe button and watch these other videos off to the side. You think that maybe I'm just promoting my channel. I actually don't know how this wizarding world works, but my sources are telling me the only way to stop him is to subscribe to my channel and watch my videos. Please help me save the world. Subscribe, watch, and Expelliarmus!